Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Holly.
Today we're going to be discussing Revolution of the Daleks, the 2021 New Year's Doctor Who special. The Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, is still in prison after being whisked away at the end of the last season by the rhino-faced police, the Judoon. She's soon broken out, however, by Captain Jack Harkness, played by John Barrowman, a character returning from the show's early years as well as its spin-off, Torchwood. Meanwhile, back on Earth, companion Yaz, played by Mandip Gill, is putting her police skills to use, trying to investigate where the Doctor could have potentially disappeared to. Meanwhile, the other companions, Ryan and Graham, played by Tosin Cole and Bradley Walsh from The Chase, have decided maybe it's time to move on since it's been so long since they saw the Doctor. Meanwhile, the billionaire villain, Robertson, played by Mr. Big himself, Chris Noth, has acquired the Dalek and has had it retrofitted and is funding it to be a security and police drone, which he's sold on to the UK government. Unfortunately, the Dalek mutant has also been cloned and it's got its own insidious plan set into motion.
That was a really good spiel.
I have rehearsed it.
Yay!
What are your thoughts?
Well,
Wow.
Chibnall bad.
Bad.
No,
Let's start off with good things.
loyal fans of the Geeks Review might remember the previous two-parter we did on the Chibnall-Whittaker era, the current era of Doctor Who. And it's not the best. Like, the show probably already declining in the late Moffat era. So you can listen to our thoughts on it in there. But the general quality has not changed.
Visually and aesthetically and production value-wise, the quality is incredible.
Very
Yeah.
vibrant, very colourful.
Very beautiful, well shot, well placed.
Well, actually, we were having this discussion. It's very beautiful. The shots are very beautifully composed, especially to do with lights and composition and focus. Like, the camera works very nice. But as well as the clunky writing, the direction is not actually very good. There's a lot of moments where the Doctor will step up to the bad guy and stand, and then the companions will stand in a V formation behind her and not move and just talk from there. And because the writing has been so shockingly bad, we've kind of been distracted by that. But I think it's not helped by the stale direction. Even John Barrowman as Captain Jack was very stale. He didn't feel like he fit. His one-liners, it made John Barrowman's performance look bad. And I mean, it may have been bad. He hasn't been Captain Jack since 2011.
I don't think it was him. I do not believe, after watching that episode, I don't think it was his acting. I don't think it was... It's the same argument as it's not Jodie's acting that makes the 13th Doctor not good.
Yeah.
It's the writing and the direction that makes Jodie's
We do
Doctor
want
not
to
good.
make that clear as well. We're not anti-Jodie. We're not anti-female Doctor. I
I
love
love her.
Jodie Whittaker. Want her to be good. It's just she's let down, and now that there's rumours that she's going to be leaving, it's a little, oh, okay, really?
And people are starting to go back into the, this is what happens when you get a girl, and this is why you can't have a black doctor. And it's like, really, that's not the point. They should be able to do a good job, no matter whether they're male, female, black, white, Asian, I don't care.
Blue.
Non-binary, trans, I don't care. They should just do a good job, which is what Jodie did. Jodie did a good acting job. So did John Barrowman. It's the writing and the direction that let it down. That's just my opinion.
There was one scene that annoyed me so much. It was in the Dalek cloning,
No.
where the lights kept changing colour. And they're in the V formation.
Yes.
There was one bit where the Doctor realised that the lights were part of the Daleks' plan, and she finally moved from her position and started flicking switches and was like, turn off the lights, turn off the lights. And then it cut to this shot of three companions, including Jack, and they were like, they were still in their V formation. And John Barrowman turned his head and went, why, Doctor? And it was like something I would have improvised when I was in grade 3 playing Doctor Who with my friends.
Yeah.
It was just, Exposition City, the idea is here. Jack hasn't said anything for a while.
Graham disappeared from this episode. When he kind of showed up at the end, it's like, oh, wait, where have you been?
Yeah.
Off directing the chase.
Talking about the really good things, Graham is always solid for me. In every single appearance except for this one, I've always been like, Graham is the only likeable character that has come into this. I hate Yaz, and I think I talked about that in the other one. I think it wasn't because of Mandip, because she's incredible, but they just wrote Yaz so poorly. Ryan kind of just ended up in the back burner, because once he dealt with his mum's death, it was kind of like, we'll use him for his dyspraxia sometimes, but other than that, that's about it. And like this weird thing with him and Yaz that isn't a thing, that they're brother and sister, and then it's weird, and it's like, okay, cool.
What?
There's no development here at all.
Brother and sister.
They have like this brother-sister relationship.
Oh, they're meant to.
But then there's no character development.
You would hope that there is.
Yeah. But Graham has always been a standout, and it really sucked to have him put in the sidelines only for him to leave, because he's the best companion from this current series.
And sort of jumping the gun a bit, I mean, they're bringing in another elderly comedic actor in John Bishop.
The Hugh Grant knockoff. Yeah. I thought it was Hugh Grant until I saw the name.
Because one of the problems with the companions is, and the show in general at the moment, is every episode tries to do too much. You know, in this plot, we had the recon Daleks, we had government espionage, we had the tactical Daleks, we had the Doctor coming back from prison, we had Jack, we had Yaz feeling abandoned by the Doctor, we had Ryan and Graham leaving. There was just too much happening in it, and that's also an issue with having 3 companions in the TARDIS with no time to develop them. When I heard that Graham and Ryan were leaving, I was like, oh, they're leaving my least favourite companion, but maybe we'll get to know her.
Because again, Mandip is a good actor. There's nothing wrong with her acting.
Maybe we'll get to know her. She'll be written a bit more. But no, they're bringing in another old white dude.
Which I don't mind them bringing in an old white dude as another companion. But they just did that successfully with Graham.
Yeah.
And then they get rid of Graham because Bradley Walsh has better things to do, which honestly fair.
It's one of those things where I remember back when Capaldi was the Doctor, I would stay up to date with the production. You know, there were new photos coming out like nearly every week of Jenna Coleman and, you know, Pearl Mackie and Peter Capaldi on set, you know, doing things out in public and all that. And you would build up an expectation of, okay, well, Clara's on the motorcycle again. We'll get to see some motorcycle action. And in the episode, it's like 5 seconds of her driving down a street.
Yeah.
When you saw all these photos, like hundreds of photos of all that, and, you know, them standing in a park, and it's like, you know, a 10-second shot of that. And with this, you build up these expectations, and they don't even get met. They are surpassed in their bottom tierness.
Like, why in the context of the new series was it not just Ryan and Graham leave? Makes sense for Ryan's character after his whole storyline when he came back and his friend was in trouble and he needed him, and coming back for that extended period of time, it made sense for Ryan that he needed to move on and do something else.
Well, it would. I mean, he only really, like, Can You Hear Me was like episode 7 of season 12, I think.
Yeah.
And like cool mental health stuff.
It makes sense, though.
It was badly done, but whatever.
Yeah.
But then, like, he didn't mention it again after that episode until now.
But at least, like, it made sense, and they gave him some time to talk to the Doctor about it, and it was made very clear that he was going to go. Graham was put on the back burner, but it also makes sense for his character to go because...
But also, it makes it clear he wants to stay, but he values being with Ryan over going off with the Doctor. But it's sort of like, okay, well, the Doctor's still around. I mean, Yaz is still there. They're all presumably still interacting outside because they've become friends through their adventures with the Doctor. Why doesn't Graham, like, say, oh, see you, Ryan, I'm just going away for, like, the weekend with the Doctor and I'll come back?
Because you can't trust the TARDIS.
And also because it was only because Bradley Walsh was leaving the project.
Yeah.
If Bradley Walsh hadn't have decided to leave the project, which it was his decision, Tosin, he got a role in an American TV show. That's why he left.
That's what I was going to say, sorry, in regards to, you know, you see the behind-the-scenes pictures. They go and they have a lot of fun, and then the episodes come out, and they might have spent, you know, 2-3 weeks doing an episode, which results in 40 minutes of episode. And they had a blast doing that, you know, behind the scenes and all that. And they decide, okay, you know, I've spent 2 years doing this. I've had a lot of fun. But then it's just the end product hasn't been satisfactory on our end.
Yeah.
And that's the point I was going to make.
Which is probably why Bradley, like, I don't know why Bradley Walsh in particular left. He made a couple statements, but he probably left because he was done, he had his fun, and then he was going to leave because he probably wasn't planning on being a permanent fixture in the Doctor Who universe.
Which is probably the same for like all the Doctors who left. But I think with the Doctors previous, they've had good episodes that we could latch onto and go like, that was a really fun moment for 12, for 10, for 9, you know.
I'm happy that Graham lived. I didn't think Graham was going to survive.
Well, yeah, with the exception of Martha Jones, played by Freema Agyeman back in 2007, who left on her own terms.
Yeah.
And all the other characters have either, you know, died
or
you know,
forcibly,
been ejected. And this
been
was...
parallel universed, been wiped memoried, been...
Oh my God, that name drop of Rose Tyler was so clunky.
Like, it makes sense for Jack to mention Rose. It makes complete sense. But it doesn't make sense for Jack to mention Rose when talking about Jodie.
Yeah, because it's been a couple of thousand years for the Doctor now.
Yeah, and also there's not that connection anymore.
Speaking very quickly about the Doctor, I mean, obviously we've got the Timeless Child revelation, which basically, long story short, it was revealed that the Doctor was the progenitor of the entire Time Lord species in a way, like the whole regeneration thing is as a result of her.
So the Doctor's the chosen one. Yay.
Rather than just a rebellious, you know, Time Lord who's also already special in that regard, you know, didn't play by the rules, and now it's like she's something else. I think we sort of talked about how that didn't feel congruent with anything else we'd seen before. She didn't feel like, you know, the same Doctor we'd seen in the last 50 years.
I had this revelation during Revolution of the Daleks that I think they did that because they wanted to play it safe with not developing the Doctor's character, but they wanted to force people to like the Doctor because the Doctor is this Deus Ex Machina. So the Doctor is this chosen one now, which means that the Doctor has to be important, which kind of just takes away from the new Doctor that they have. And, like, I mean, it's the same problem I had with Mulan when we watched the new Mulan. Like, it's this chosen one aesthetic that they're putting on to try and be like, look at this strong female character. She's the chosen one. Which is not how that works, because why can't we just have a strong female character who is just a strong female character like the original Mulan did? Because she was just a chick who went to war because her dad was not good and worked really hard and was very smart and did a good job. Whereas in the new one, it was like, oh, yes, magic. And that's what it feels like with Doctor Who. It feels like it's that same thing of like, we already had a completely competent, we loved the Doctor, we loved the story, we loved the rebellious, the Doctor was just a dude at that point who went, you know what, I want to go, let's go, and just went. Not like the 1,000 times regeneration cycle of this, you know, million-year-old Time Lord creator.
Yeah.
Like,
From
why?
another universe.
Why?
Okay, so also, this episode was filmed 18 months ago. This was filmed, you know, mid-2019, you know, a lot of the themes and such in regards to police and rioting feels very prescient considering 2020 when this was actually filmed well in advance of it. Yeah. And also, especially in the last few weeks of 2021 with things that have been going on there.
Yes.
And having riot-controlled Daleks is a bit of an interesting idea there. But
It wasn't explored very much, though.
No, but also there is a discussion that the Doctor and Ryan have, and I think one thing I took away from it might have been wrong, but where it was kind of like, well, who cares about the prophecy? You're the Doctor, you're you, it doesn't matter, you know, which sort of felt like an easy out for the future showrunners to sort of go, well, just forget about all that, let's just continue with the Doctor.
Yeah, well, because it
forth.
seems like Chris Chibnall's realised his mistake, because Chris was very clearly like, I don't want to think about anything from the new series, we want to go back to classic Who if we're going to take any inspiration. Screw the original, like the new series 2005, 2006, Tennant, Eccleston era, stuff Moffat, he doesn't matter, I want to do my own thing. And upon reflection, I think now he's starting to sow the seeds of, hey, look, your favourite character from the 2005 to 2007 era's back. You know, the Doctor. He's kind of gone, the Timeless Child is a mistake because we haven't written it well.
Well, isn't that funny, though? Because it was recorded back when the Timeless Child and all that was done. It seems like a very quick correction.
I would suggest it's not a correction. I would suggest that it's a long plan, because Chibnall talked about this 5-year plan that he's got.
Either it's a long plan or it's lazy writing.
Well, there's that
so that
too.
they don't have to, because it was the idea is that they didn't want to have to address the timeless child in the New Year's episode because they didn't want it to be about the timeless child in the New Year's episode. Like, they have this whole thing of the Doctor being in prison for decades.
Yeah, was it decades, was it?
Yeah, it was
okay,
like 20, 30 years or something, I think.
You never see the Jadoon.
No, you don't see the Jadoon. Some cool callbacks in there, though. Like, some really cool monster callbacks.
But, like, again, it was just like, oh, remember the RTD era? Here's the Sycorax. Here's
the Ood. Here's also a silence because, sure, hi, Moffat.
Yeah.
Like, cool. But it was like, she says to Ryan, she's like, I've had decades to think about this. Where are you going with that? And then she just goes, I had decades to think about it.
The prison thing was just completely wasted.
Yeah.
But the escape was very, very good. Having Jack work for 19 years to get into the prison to then escape like that is incredible.
He just said, I worked for 19 years to get here, and then they were out in under a minute.
Yeah, I would have liked to see
Moffat would have had like
more.
cutaways to like, let's hire a street in Cardiff and you dress it up like 1800s and have Jack run down it, with some peasants and he pushes them away and we've got a Hoix chasing him or something, like that.
Yeah.
Or a blowfish or something like that.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the callback to the makeover show. How did you smuggle that in? You really don't want to know.
That was so cringe.
I appreciated that one because it's fair.
In 2005, when he was naked and pulled out a gun, that was funny. It made sense. But in this episode, he was fully clothed, and it doesn't fit the tone of the show.
Pulp Fiction.
Russell T Davies' writing was cheeky. That's the thing. The show is not cheeky anymore. The show does not. There's no tongue in cheek. It's just it's happening.
But Chris Chibnall is the lead writer of Torchwood's first 2 seasons.
Yep.
And wrote some of the best episodes of Torchwood.
But
Ever.
Chris Chibnall also wrote Cyberwoman.
Cyberwoman's a great story.
Yeah, it's
But
just
also.
No, Cyberwoman's a great story.
No, it's a great story. Just the
she looks
Cyberwoman.
stupid.
yeah.
Probably talk about the Daleks in this episode.
Yes. What did
They
you
were
think?
great.
Yeah.
They
the
looked sick.
Dalek race war. When I realised that was happening, I was
Yeah.
like, wow.
But it got resolved too quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was
Have you
It's
watched much
kind of-
Classic Who?
Yes.
Yeah.
it's
So-
one of those things where it was a really cool concept, but it was like, oh no, all of these Daleks, this is a huge threat. What do we do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. What are you going to do that? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Everything was solved.
Well, one thing I've noticed about Doctor Who years ago was that because they can just come up with anything, it's not really a show that you can predict because they can just pull anything out of thin air and make it that way. Like I remember it was Mummy on the Orient Express, and it was like the solution to it was sort of so... It made sense and it was presented in an interesting way, but you could not have guessed that it was going to unfold that way. That's the way it is. But with this, the seeds were sort of planted from Classic Who. We know that the Daleks are so obsessed with purity that they will divide if they, have differing genetics or ideologies, and they'll go against each other, even though each is supposedly the pure being. And this one Dalek who was trying so hard to complete his mission, but then he's, become corrupted in the other Dalek's eyes.
Yeah, but what really annoyed me was that they had that, and then they had that really interesting bit where this Dalek goes onto the ship and he's like, That also annoyed me, where it was like, oh my god, this massive fleet of he's the last one.
Yes.
And then he tries to make his case. What I would have liked for them to go, the Doctor tricked us. The Doctor is more our enemy than the impure of our kind, because Daleks are smart. They know that they can take care of the Doctor, because if they had have all worked together, they would have been able to take down the Doctor.
So actually, very quickly about the new Dalek design. Did you like that?
Beautiful.
When I saw the images, I didn't like it. Like, we saw the images like 2 years ago because they filmed it 2 years ago. And I was like, yee. I wasn't really interested in it. But in the and the red and blue lights in the images, I was like, oh no. But in the show, they really worked. And this is the first time that a Dalek blast, like hitting someone, has actually felt punchy. Actually felt it in this episode, which was really good. And it was really cool that they used the because obviously in 1988, Remembrance of the Daleks is also a Dalek race war. The Imperial Daleks, which are the impure Daleks, they have a distinct new style of voice.
Yes.
And the human Daleks from this episode had the same ring modulation as the Imperial Daleks.
Yeah.
So it was a cute little reference there.
It was a really good justification to have these new Daleks, which they can then sell.
Yeah.
But they're not
I'd like to see
proper
more of them.
Daleks, yeah.
I'd honestly like to see more of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the story was that, the original scrap Dalek was, a scout who probably could have just been an original Dalek who then was constructed to be the closest approximation it could be with like the misshapen neck and weird proportions, which was then interpreted by the human scientists and translated into these new drones, which then follow that same design aesthetic, which directly contradicts everything we've seen with the Daleks, but it makes sense in regards to that. So I really like that, but yeah, they were killed off too soon.
To be honest, I think Robertson is going to make more. Because they can't just have that new design of a character and then never do it again. I feel like that'd be a really stupid move on Chibnall's part, and it'd be a waste of his character. Because his character seems to be being set up as a really good human antagonist.
He's actually interesting, and it's like...
I hated him in his first episode, in the spider episode.
He's funny in this.
He's amazing. Yeah. And the fact that he flip-flopped so easily between... oh my god, this technology is amazing, give me clues, to I'm going to portray you in the entirety of the human race. Like, it just shows human fickleness, which is what the Doctor fights against.
It's very classic. Very 80s Who.
Very, very good.
Because,
I mean, the amount of times that the classic villains made deals with humans in the classic series, even when they usually hated them, it was still like, let's make a deal. I'll give you this information if you don't kill me. And then eventually they, betray them and then kill them anyway. But
they just listened to this guy.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. I'm interested to see whether he comes back, because he should. Because also Chris Noth is amazing.
Yeah.
And he's so funny.
I got flashbacks to Evolution of the Daleks and Daleks Take Manhattan.
Yes.
With the Diagoras there.
Yeah.
One of my favourite episodes from back then. The Daleks.
That's a good story. It's the one season of Doctor Who, or like the RTD era, where the season finale didn't have the Daleks and the Daleks were in the middle. Back to Revolution of the Daleks. I didn't like that the Doctor sacrificed, for all she knows, the last TARDIS other than her own.
Without even a second thought. She just was like, you know what?
Like, it was cool. It was cool science.
Yeah.
If there had been an emotional beat, though...
Yeah.
That would have made it better.
If the Doctor had have spoken to the TARDIS and said, I can't ask you to do this, and then like the console goes beep boop and she goes, thank you. That would have, like, but can you see that?
The TARDIS is a literal living entity.
Well, they wanted the bait and switch because you think it is just her TARDIS. But yeah, so...
But also this Doctor doesn't have the connection with the TARDIS that the other Doctors have had.
She doesn't have the connection with anyone.
There's no banter there. But the fact that the Doctor just, without even being emotional... just sitting there smiling, being like, haha, I'm going to send the last remnant of my entire race into the oblivion and have fun. Bye. Yeah. And then now it's just the Doctor and the TARDIS for all they know.
Well, status quo sort of thing in a way, hey. But, yeah, the Dalek stuff maybe tricked me into thinking this was a great episode.
Really good.
Also to put it out there that TARDIS was the Master's TARDIS.
No.
Because that's the Homestead TARDIS that they took, and that was the house.
Yeah.
I think that was just a TARDIS that was on Gallifrey, wasn't it?
No, that was the one that the Master used to travel, because the Homestead in Australia was the Master's TARDIS.
Righto.
And what
Don't remind me of that.
peeved me was also, that means that the Doctor willingly got rid of the last trace of the Master.
Yeah.
Which has been a whole thing for the entire time, that no matter how bad the Master gets, the Doctor will never get rid of them.
Yeah.
And then now, Master is dead, which is not happening, but sure. And they were just like, you know what? Who cares? I don't need any reminder of this person who was my best friend, who I've refused to kill for literal thousands of centuries. It's fine. Like, it didn't make sense.
Well, I mean, I guess the Master and the Cyberlords are still out there, yeah.
No, but they're not, supposedly.
No, they were all blown up.
They're all blown up.
I think they'll twist it. Hey,
the Master will live, the Cyberlords will not. I don't think that they can do that with that much power. Having that much power within the Doctor Who universe was always going to be a disaster. And not a disaster for the Doctor, a disaster for the show. Because Because it'd be cool to see the Doctor go up against something that is virtually unbeatable. But
Yeah, I love how the Doctor was like, oh no, Cybermen that will regenerate. What if I just explode them?
yeah.
And what if I let this other guy explode them for me?
Yeah.
There's still residual Series 12 anger. But Revolution of the Daleks, it was fun to watch the Daleks as little as they were in there. I was really interested in the Jack Robinson bits. He was a good actor. And honestly, the start of the episode, all those bits with him talking to the Prime Minister and the scientists and stuff, those are really good and really engaging. And then when we got to the Doctor and the companions, I was like, oh, okay.
You know it's really bad when Doctor Who doesn't want to centralise around the Doctor.
Yeah.
And when you get to the Doctor, you go, oh.
Yeah. Although, I was glad that Yaz had something to do in this one.
Yeah, what do you think about the hints to her potentially having feelings for the Doctor?
I think it makes sense as long as it's not reciprocated.
Yeah.
And if it is reciprocated, then, whatever. The Doctor is not human, but also the Doctor is human. The Doctor has emotion.
I've always cringed at Ten and Rose.
Yeah.
But, again, it's the whole concept of you can't help who you love, and you can't help if you fall in love.
But do you think it's also because, shipping has been such a prevalent thing? You've always had a male Doctor with a female companion. Shipping was going to happen, and you've gone and got Doctor who's changed gender, but whatever, it's still the same character. Female companion, let's ship her with the Doctor because she's got no character. We can insert character into that. But do you think that felt a little fan servicey or? I
think that they established very early on that Yaz was not straight. So I don't mind because there was that, that comment from her parents that was like, is this your girlfriend? And Yas was like, Mum, shut up. That was very obviously a nice subtle reference to maybe Yaz not being straight. So at least it's not like, oh, we have this female companion, let's make her a lesbian now. At least it was an established thing pretty early on that she may not be fully straight, or at least may not be, Also, the fact that she didn't swoon over Jack is something that I really enjoyed in this episode, was that she's the first female companion who hasn't swooned over Jack, which was very good. And I would have liked to actually see more of Jack being like, hang on, what? Have I lost it? Am I losing it? And then Yaz being like, no, I'm just not that way inclined. That would have been funny. But yeah. I don't mind if Yaz likes the Doctor. I don't mind if the Doctor likes Yaz. I don't think that they'll get the Doctor to reciprocate.
Well, now they've gone and got Dan, John Bishop's character, contend with. So now we've got to have a season to introduce him, and I guess another season to sort of try and make something of Yaz.
But I don't think they'll have the Doctor reciprocating because I don't think that Jodie's character is capable of it.
No, she's too much of a child and socially awkward stuff, which doesn't socially awkward people can love, but I don't think so.
It doesn't. I don't think it would suit the character.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a dimension to her.
But it would add dimension to Yaz, which I think would harken back to that whole one episode that we got of Yaz being bullied, because literally 30 seconds of, oh, Yaz was bullied as a kid, oh, big sad. And that was all the characterization we got in 2 seasons. So maybe they're going to link Yaz's sexuality to that. I don't know. Maybe they're going to just link it to her being a person of colour.
They've already had that with the Rosa episode, actually, back in series 1. That was, she was bullied because of that. But so, it's...
But I don't know, because... And also, Dan's not going to fit. I already feel it. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like he's going to fit with what they're trying to do.
Well, what are your expectations? Let's sort of wrap up the episode now, but what are your expectations going forward, or what's something you would like to see for the future?
Well, I've already seen the really cool Sontaran redesign. They look like classic Sontarans. They're tall again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I think they'll actually be a threat, which is nice.
I have a few issues with that, purely because we've got an established protagonist character who is a Sontaran. But that's just me.
Well, you could be from a bad batch.
That's true.
I hope to see more of that. Because, again, I'm trying to reserve judgment on the Timeless Child thing until the whole thing has played out. So I'm hoping to see more of that. I'm hoping to see more of 13 as a character. Hoping to see more of Yaz as a character. Not looking forward to... hope maybe... Maybe
Hugh Grant knockoff will do a good job.
Well, I was going to say maybe he won't be in it for a few episodes. Maybe he'll come in halfway through, because it's going to be 8 episodes because they have filming restrictions because of COVID, and also it's going to have a bit of a focus on COVID, I think.
Yeah, and it's going to be coming out later this year, isn't it?
Yeah,
so we'll talk about it when it comes on.
Yeah, which is cool because, Doctor Who has always gone to historical events and we just lived through one. So
Yes.
it would be stupid if they ignored it.
One thing I also want to comment on briefly is the music. The theme is great, however, just all the other incidental music is just, synth droning as opposed to anything that enhances the scene or builds
Doesn't
upon it.
make me go, wow, this is great music.
The theme of the Daleks when they're introduced reminded me of the Dark Trooper theme in The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
It's very sort of like
very similar.
pseudo...
The Bionicles. It reminded me of Remembrance of the Daleks, Kef McCulloch's abrasive synthetic music.
I have to go back to that, yes.
Yeah. Well, Murray Gold composed the music for Doctor Who from 2005 to 2017. So that's 12 years of a certain style of music. And the classic series of Doctor Who always had electric music, which was cool, but didn't do the same thing.
It's very dated.
Yeah, no, the music is a bit sad. 13's theme, that's very beautiful, but it doesn't and it suits a version of 13 that I'd love to see, but the version of 13 I have seen.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
like
work.
you can see what the music was going for with the character. But the character isn't there to
character
complement
missed
the
it.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Just
odd.
the other synth sort of unsettles me. Going back to our review very quickly of Soul, a lot of the synth music there it just doesn't gel with me. It just sort of unsettles me. And that's what I get with a lot of the background music. Like you got a discussion between Jack and Yaz and it's just sort of like this drone in the background. It's like, oh.
Fair.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sometimes
Irks me.
synth does things for different people.
Yeah.
And for some people it can add a really good ambience. For some people it just unsettles them because it's this uncanny sound.
Yeah, it's not a natural
Yeah.
sound.
I do think it would be really fun if Dan was introduced very similar to Donna in Series 4, the sort of poppy music, remember there was a really fun tune
jazz.
that
That
played
was
there where you
so
see,
funny.
if you would see him living his life and then he runs into the Doctor and then it's sort of very similar to that, but that's never going to happen.
No.
I don't know.
Fingers
We'll see.
crossed. Here's like,
I am looking forward to seeing what they do with Yaz because I really, really wanted to like her character. I really wanted to. Mandip Gill is a beautiful actor. She's got such potential and she's very strong. And they really did her dirty. It's the same as Jodie. Jodie's such a good actor, but they did them dirty because the only one who ended up good was Graham, and now he's gone. I really, really hope that they do something more with Yaz's character, and I hope that it's not just like, oh, in love with the Doctor and that's it.
yeah.
Because that was a good defining character trait back in 2005. Not so much anymore.
And with her being a police officer as well, it could be really fun.
Yeah, where the hell did her police career go? What? Did she just spend that whole 9 months looking for the Doctor and quit her job as a police officer? Huh?
Anyway, that's today's show. We spoke a lot about Doctor Who and we'll be back next week. Not too sure what with yet, but we'll see. I'm Royce
I'm Matt.
And I'm Holly.
and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.